I'm Richard Donley. I originally came from Massachusetts. I was born in Boston, but was brought up in Worcester. At the age of 16, I legally ran away from home and joined the Merchant Marine. Put in my maritime boot camp at Sheepshead Bay, and then my first ship was out of the Panama Canal Zone. I went from New York to Miami in a sleeping car, unheard of at 16 years old, have your own sleeping compartment. When I got to Miami, I was put aboard a P5M and flown down to the Panama Canal Zone. I picked up a T2 tanker. At that point, we went down to Aruba, filled up with oil, and came up the coast to New York, and then over to a little port in Bremen, outside of Liverpool, halfway up the Liverpool-Manchester Canal, at a port called Ellesmere Port. The refinery was there on the east coast of Great Britain. They refined the fuel into gas that was pumped across Britain under the canal or so that never was there a tanker on the west coast of Great Britain between France and Great Britain. When we got through there, we came back, and I grabbed a Liberty ship. This is in 43 and 44. In 45, I was on a Liberty ship that was in Le Havre, France, VE Day. I'd never so discussed in my life. Le Havre went strictly hammer and sickle, was the only flag you saw flying in Le Havre, France, VE Day. We came back after that, and I made one more trip across, and then it was decided that all the army that was left in Europe should come back to the States, or a good part of it to be retrained to go to the Pacific. There was not enough transports to bring them back, so that the Victory ship was transformed into troop transports. We brought cargo over, and once the hulls were unloaded, they set up the galley to feed the troops and bunks down in the hull to support them. While this was going on, I happened to be in the Union Hall, and an old retired Army cook was talking about how this would work, the only way it would work. The only way it would work would be if we were allowed to have one of the upper deck cabins with one bunk for the Army cook, so that he could put 3 people with him, a first sergeant and 2 cooks. The first sergeant to run the troops, because we had no control over them. I listened very intently to what was going on, and my next trip into the Union Hall, there was a spot for the Army cook, and I grabbed it. In those days, we didn't have to sign articles until everything was agreeable, so that I could go aboard ship and barter for what I wanted to do, and if I didn't get what I wanted, I could leave the ship. I went in and talked to the chief steward, who I would be working for, and explained how I saw it working. And he thought it was a pretty good idea and was willing to back me on it, so I signed on. We went to Genoa, Italy. We were the first American ship into Genoa. There was a staging area for the troops right outside of Genoa. The minute we got the gangplank over, I went up to the staging area to look for my first sergeant and a couple cooks. I had made up my mind that I would use traveling men only for my first sergeants. I found what I was looking for, and proposed what was going on to him, and he bought it. And he got the job as the first sergeant for the ship, and he brought 2 cooks aboard. About 3 days before we left, they came aboard and got established so that he had a mustering list of all the troops that we were carrying and took care of where they would berth and the rest of it. He was also responsible for the cleanliness of the ship, giving me the people I needed to run the mess decks and people we needed to clean up the holds. It worked out real well. My job was to prepare the menu and to make sure that I had enough food broken out so we didn't run out of anything during feeding them. I spent 3 trips like that. My last trip back, VJ Day was declared, and we were halfway across the ocean. There's nothing prettier than a lit convoy. I got out of the Merchant Marine in '46 because of union busting, and the ships were going back to rust spots. Joined the Navy in '46, went to Bainbridge, Maryland for boot camp. Because of my past experience in the Maritime service, I only had a month of boots. In May, they put us on a train going from Bainbridge down to Florida. I was headed for Jacksonville. That was May of '46. The great train strike of '46 took place when we got to Florence, South Carolina. Out of nowhere, the train was shut down. We were on subsidized food tickets. Without having a place to cash them, you couldn't eat. I took the Navy troops that I had about 20 with me, and marched them to the high school and let the high school worry about us, which they did. They took good care of us. The train strike lasted about two days when Truman told them to go back to work or else we'll put you in the Army and you'll be in the Army running the trains. They didn't like that, so they went back to work. I had quite an interesting career. I did a few things that other people didn't. I put a tour in blimps. A lot of people don't understand blimps. It's a science in itself. When you heat a gas, it expands. And it also gives you more lift because of what they call superheat. You get a cloud over the sun and you lose your superheat and lose your expansion, and the blimp will wrinkle. Now you got to blow it up again. Also, in flight, if you hit a thunderstorm or any rain, the massive canvas of a blimp, just a little bit of water on it, will take away your superheat plus add a lot of weight, which is very dangerous. You're always on your toes. There's never, with a blimp, you never can relax, even on the ground. I was lucky enough to be assigned for 2 astronaut pickups. I was on the Kearsarge when we picked up Wally Schirra in October of '62 and Gordon Cooper in May of '63. Wally's trip, we could have put him on the carrier as well as alongside. We watched him break through the atmosphere, watch the parachute deploy, and then watch him float gently down the water. They pulled him out of the capsule while he was in the water after the Navy SEALs put the flotation gear on his capsule. Gordy Cooper, they pulled up on the carrier before he got out. It was quite interesting to figure out. Gordy was in the air about 26 hours, which was a long time. He made 16, 17 orbits. I ended up in Jacksonville, Florida, retiring in 1970. Okay.